Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to get into some compelling ideas, maybe help you navigate, this complex world we're in. Do you ever get that feeling like you're searching for something meaningful, but life's just so busy? Or that weird thing where you're super connected online, but sometimes feel totally alone? It's a real tension, right? Well, today, we're going on a bit of an intellectual journey, a deep dive into Fyodor Dostoevsky. His thoughts are challenging, yeah, but also incredibly insightful even now. Now, you probably know him as this giant of literature, right? One of the great novelists. But our sources for this, they encourage us to see him as something more. A teacher of the human condition. So our mission today, we want to pull out the key bits of wisdom from his work and show you how relevant his observations from over a century ago, how relevant they still are, like right now. These aren't just dusty old ideas. They can actually help us understand ourselves, understand the world a bit better. So, okay, let's unpack this.
It's really true. What's amazing about Dostoevsky is how his work just cuts right to the bone of, universal human struggles, the deep stuff. We'll be looking at some specific bits that really highlight his big themes, and we'll try to connect his 19th century world to your experience today in the 21st century. It's really an exploration of human nature itself, all its contradictions, how they shape us.
Okay, so one of the first big ideas is this concept of man as a mystery. What did he mean by that exactly? He seems to be saying we're not just about survival or, being comfortable. It kind of pushes back against a lot of modern thinking. He has this question: if everyone's basic needs were met, food, shelter, total comfort, would we actually be content, really?
He really questions that assumption. For Dostoevsky, even if all those physical needs were satisfied, people would, probably still find ways to destroy themselves if they didn't have something deeper, something like a real sense of meaning or faith or purpose. He thought life's real question isn't just how to live. Lots of people try to answer that, but the crucial one is why to live. So the nugget here, real human fulfillment for Dostoevsky isn't just about comfort or security. It's in that search, often a tough search, for a why. Something bigger than just existing.
That's a heavy thought. That even with everything, we might still look for meaning or maybe even destruction. Is he saying we're inherently bad, or is there some kind of hope in that search itself?
It's less about saying we're inherently bad, I think. It's more a warning against settling for the superficial. He absolutely sees the contradictions in us, good and bad, all mixed up. The hope for him is precisely in that struggle, in facing those big questions about existence and why we're here. So no, he's not denying goodness. He's saying real goodness, real meaning comes out of wrestling with these deep, sometimes uncomfortable truths.
Okay, that makes more sense. And speaking of contradictions, this next one is fascinating. This idea of love for humanity versus love for actual people. This really says something about us, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
He shows this so clearly in the Brothers Karamazov. There's this story about a doctor, right?
Yeah.
This doctor says he loves humanity so much he'd die for it. Big, grand gestures. But then he admits almost immediately that he can't stand being around any one actual person for too long. Like the real, messy, individual human. Nope. Can't handle it.
It's such a sharp observation. Dostoevsky called it the fabric of human nature. We have these lofty dreams, right? We want to save the world, feed the poor. But then faced with the actual person who might be difficult or annoying or just inconvenient, we stumble. We get impatient.
Yeah.
It forces you to think, doesn't it? Where do you see that in your own life? Maybe like big talk about social justice, but then how we treat the person right next to us or our online persona versus how we are face to face.
Right.
The core insight, real compassion, he suggests, starts small. It starts with the hard work of accepting the imperfect person right there in front of you, not just the abstract idea.
That difference between the ideal humanity and the real person.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And this leads right into another major theme. Self-deception is the greatest danger. There's this character, Elder Zosima, also in the Brothers Karamazov, who gives this really direct advice. Above all, do not lie to yourself.
Crucial.
And Dostoevsky shows us again and again through his characters what happens when we ignore that. The consequences can be catastrophic.
Oh yeah, the consequences are huge. Lying to yourself, Dostoevsky shows, it eats away at everything. Your ability to see truth, to respect others, and ultimately your ability to love. Think about Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment. The student who convinces himself he's like this superior being who can justify murder with theories.
Right, the rationalization.
Exactly. But then he just collapses under the weight of his own guilt, the self-deception he built up. Dostoevsky shows characters getting lost in their own lives until fantasy just takes over. And, the source material points out a modern parallel, like the curated illusions of digital life.
That's a really sharp connection.
It makes you ask, doesn't it? Where might you be bending the truth a little, maybe to keep things comfortable or avoid something difficult? The key idea here is that self-deception isn't just a minor flaw. It's corrosive. It destroys authentic connection and integrity.
That comparison to our online lives is quite something. But okay, how does Dostoevsky suggest we actually stop lying to ourselves? It can be so automatic, maybe even unconscious.
Well, he doesn't present it as easy. It's a constant fight, really. An active struggle. It starts with being brutally honest about our own motivations, our own desires. Facing the uncomfortable stuff head on, even when it hurts.
Oof, okay.
For Dostoevsky, confronting yourself like that is the first step towards real freedom, spiritually and psychologically, which, ties right into his ideas about humility.
Ah, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Leading perfectly into wisdom and humility. He saw this direct link between them, a bit like Socrates, maybe. That real wisdom starts when you admit you don't know everything.
Exactly like Socrates. He was so aware of how easily we fool ourselves, not just about the world, but about who we are.
He has some great quotes on this, like nothing is harder than speaking the truth, nothing easier than flattery. And this idea, the wisest man is the one who calls himself a fool at least once a month. I love that.
It's pretty radical, isn't it? Especially today, when everything feels like self-promotion and pretending you have all the answers. Dostoevsky really believed arrogance just blinds you. It shuts you off from learning, from empathy, even from knowing yourself. Humility, though, that opens the door. It lets you see yourself and others more clearly, flaws and all. It's so important for growth. Because only when you admit you might be wrong or that you have limits can you actually start to learn and connect authentically. So, the takeaway. Wisdom for Dostoevsky isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the humility to keep questioning yourself and seeking truth, even the uncomfortable kind.
Okay, this next theme feels incredibly relevant, maybe even urgent right now. The burden of freedom. He explores this in that famous parable, The Grand Inquisitor, again from the Brothers Karamazov.
Yeah.
In that story, this powerful church figure, the Inquisitor, basically argues that people are afraid of freedom. It's too heavy a burden. He suggests people would happily trade their liberty for comfort, for bread, order, certainty. Someone else telling them what to do.
Yes, this parable just lays bare what Dostoevsky saw as this eternal tension between security and liberty. It's uncanny how prophetic it feels. He showed how easily fear pushes people and whole societies to trade the messiness and responsibility of freedom for the illusion of safety under authority.
You really see that today.
Absolutely. You look around and you see how fear of chaos, economic trouble, threats makes people willing to give up freedoms for promises of security. The enduring insight from Dostoevsky here. He forces us to confront this deep temptation we all have, to ditch the hard work of freedom for the easier path of being told what to think and do. It's a stark question for you, the listener. What's the real cost of that trade-off in your society?
Yeah.
How much freedom are you willing to trade for comfort or security?
It's a chilling question, really, but so insightful about our vulnerabilities. And this connects to the next point, existential crisis and the silence of God. Dostoevsky gives us Ivan Karamazov, another brother, who embodies this deep protest against a universe where innocent people suffer terribly.
Ivan's rebellion is powerful.
Yeah, and it's not coming from hate, exactly. The source material calls it angry love. He refuses to accept pointless suffering, especially of children, because he loves creation so fiercely.
And what's truly radical, I think, is that Dostoevsky doesn't just give an easy answer to why they're suffering. He doesn't try to justify God's silence.
Right. He doesn't solve the problem.
No. Instead, he shifts the responsibility. He basically says, okay, if God is silent, if the universe doesn't give us neat answers, then we have to create meaning. We have to do it through our actions, especially through compassion for each other.
So the agency is on us.
Exactly. It puts the power and the burden right back on human shoulders. In a world that can feel meaningless sometimes, Dostoevsky says, create the meaning yourself. Find it in empathy, in action. Don't just wait for an answer from somewhere else. The key takeaway. Faced with suffering and doubt, Dostoevsky challenges us to forge meaning not with clever arguments, but with active human compassion.
Okay, so if Ivan represents that despair, that struggle with suffering, and we're supposed to create meaning, how? How do we actually do that? Dostoevsky gives us a counterpoint, right, through Elder Zosima again, who points towards the path of love.
Yes, Zosima offers a different path.
His teaching, unlike Ivan's anguish, suggests that salvation, meaning it all lies in loving all things, not just the good stuff, but the sinner, the saint, like every atom of creation. It sounds idealistic.
It does sound idealistic, but he presents it as something much more demanding than just sentimentality. It's not a passive feeling, it's a discipline, an active choice, an act of will.
Okay.
It's about training yourself to see the divine, the sacred, the inherent worth in everyday life, in the mundane. And especially in the broken people around us, loving the flawed, the imperfect, he suggests, mirrors a higher kind of love that holds the universe together. So it's very practical, very active. It's about engaging with the world with your whole self through empathy, action, acceptance.
So it's not just feeling love, it's doing love.
Precisely. The insight is that meaning isn't found by escaping suffering, but by actively choosing love and compassion within it, embracing both the beauty and the pain of existence. It's a tough path, but transformative.
And what makes all this even more powerful is knowing Dostoevsky wasn't just theorizing, he lived this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. His life story is incredible.
I mean, this philosophy wasn't dreamed up in comfort. It was hammered out in unbelievable hardship. You're talking about a guy who faced a mock execution, right? Stood there waiting to be shot, then gets pardoned last second.
Imagine.
Then years in a Siberian prison camp. Constant illness, epilepsy, crushing debt and poverty for much of his life.
These weren't abstract ideas for him. They were truths paid for with immense suffering as a furnace for the soul. His own story is just woven into his work.
Yeah.
And that's why his perspective has such weight. All that suffering, it didn't seem to make him bitter or hard, which you might expect. Instead, it seemed to strip away his illusions, deepen his empathy, give him this incredible reverence for life itself.
He saw humanity everywhere.
Exactly. He found dignity in convicts and outcasts. He believed suffering could burn away the fake stuff, reveal a person's core truth. It reminds you a bit of Viktor Frankl later on, finding meaning in concentration camps. That ultimate freedom is how you respond to what happens to you.
Right. The response is key.
For Dostoevsky, suffering wasn't pointless. It was the gateway. Difficult, yes, painful, absolutely, but potentially the path to real compassion, spiritual freedom. The insight. Suffering isn't just something to be avoided. It can be the very thing that refines us, opens us up to deeper empathy, deeper truth. It's a challenge to you. How do you face your own hardships?
So let's tie this all together. Why Dostoevsky? Why does he matter now in our time? His insights feel almost disturbingly relevant, don't they?
You really do.
His warnings about lying to ourselves, especially with our curated online lives, about the pull of arrogance in public debates, about trading freedom for the false comfort of authority when things get scary. We see all of that playing out. We struggle with truth online, we argue past each other, we waste security versus liberty constantly. Dostoevsky gives us this incredible lens to see it all more clearly.
He really does. He leaves us with these powerful reminders, all connected, that truth demands humility, that real freedom requires taking responsibility, which is hard, and that genuine meaning, it comes down to active, engaged love.
Yeah.
His whole philosophy, it's not just for academics, it's a direct challenge, a call to action for every single one of us. Face your own contradictions honestly. Don't run from suffering, but don't let it crush you either. And love others, even when it's difficult, even when they're flawed. That's the highest calling.
It's quite an invitation.
It really is.
Yeah.
An invitation to live more consciously, more connectedly, and maybe ultimately more freely.
So Dostoevsky the novelist becomes this profound teacher of the human condition. He holds up a mirror and asks us to really look.
And if Dostoevsky teaches us to look into that mirror of existence, well, the question for you is, what truth about yourself are you willing to face today? And how might understanding that truth actually deepen your capacity for love and for freedom?
We hope these ideas from Dostoevsky resonate with you, maybe give you a new way to look at things. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.